And we're back doing the Constitution line by line. We're nearing the end of Article 1.
I was going to say.
There's a lot of Constitution left
way
to go. But, man, Congress is a big deal.
Yes.
Now we're into Section 10. We're looking at Clause 2. But all of Section 10 is essentially what states can't do. Correct. And each of these clauses takes us through specifically what they can't do, which is kind of the negative imprint of what Congress can do.
Right.
So that explains a bunch of what we're talking about. The wording on Clause 2 of Section 10, Article 1, did in reverse, is as follows.
Okay.
No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any impost or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress.
I'm just sitting here rocking my chair listening as you read that.
Why?
Why? This is, again, the Constitution, the federal government, knocking the heads of the states and telling them to behave.
To behave, because they used to have trade wars.
Right.
But during the Articles of Confederation, they would actually have trade wars between states.
Right.
And that does not build national consensus.
Right. And we dealt with this in different ways before when we were talking about how the states, in terms of taxes, had to be treated equally and ports had to be treated equally. Well, here we go again.
Here we go again. And I think it's interesting, the only exception to this is the part where it says, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And I bet that has something to do with the expiration of the slave trade.
How so?
Well, because, let me think about this. Probably has to do with smuggling, not necessarily the slave trade, but certainly with smuggling. So South Carolina could board a ship bound for New York and say, wait, this is in violation of duties and stuff. We're going to collect the duties that you're trying to bypass. Mm-hmm. But this clause says, well, you can do that, and that's great if it's absolutely necessary. But all the proceeds go to the federal treasury. Oh. So you can't intercept smugglers operating in and out of the port of New York and then pocket the money in South Carolina. Right. If you make these things as part of your normal, doing business and inspecting cargoes,
that's okay.
You can do it, but the money's going
to the Fed.
It's going to Uncle Sugar.
Uncle Sugar.
That's right, the U.S.
Okay. Okay.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So if that involves the slave trade, that's just one of several trades that it applies to.
Yeah, and then you think about it and you go, how many of the states had inspection laws that allowed them to inspect what was coming into their state, I assume?
Well, and since all the ports are even, there's bound to be some sort of inspection service that's going on there. And so they just can't pocket the money. So if you're trying to get around that slave importation tax of up to $10, for instance,
yeah.
If you make that observation, if you make that seizure or make that claim, that money's still going to the federal treasury.
Yeah.
Even if you uncover it in your state.
Okay.
Makes perfect sense to me.
So today, how many states inspect? I'm thinking, and I don't know the answer to this, but I do know that California, when you drive into California, they inspect,
especially agriculture.
Yeah.
Same thing in Texas.
But I've never been stopped coming into Texas.
No, have you ever been across the international border?
Not through Texas.
Okay.
They do there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the old trick my dad taught me, that we'd go down into Mexico and get drugs there. Not drugs, we're talking pharmaceuticals
okay, this
here.
Is being taped. We're listening.
That's right. This is pharmaceuticals we're talking about, sulfa drugs in particular, which were no longer
sold in the
U.S. But man, some of that sulfatazole was great for acne and things like that. And my mom was a nurse, and she said, we used it all the time during the war. It's good. So we'd go down there and get that, but we knew it'd be seized at the border. Dad did. So his trick was to put the sulfatazole underneath some oranges and stuff. And so he'd go to the inspection station. They'd say, well, do you have anything to declare? And he says, not really. I've got some oranges over here. And says, hey, you can't take oranges into Texas from Mexico. Okay. Well, y'all
take the oranges.
Yeah, take the oranges, and we drive on.
Taking the sulfate in here.
That's right.
And you heard it here, by the way.
No,
my
dad's gone to his reward, so try to prosecute that.
No, I just think about, I'm going to be in California soon, and Oregon, and when you cross the border into California.
Across the Modoc Flats.
Okay. You hit an inspection station, and they're going to say, do you have any fruits, vegetables, that sort of thing. So,
and if there's any duties collected, goes to the federal government.
Yeah.
Doesn't go to the state of California.
Right. And I have never brought anything into California like that. So anyway, I don't know if there's any other states that have anything like that.
I don't know.
Because that's an interstate thing.
It is. But it's also an international thing in the state of Texas. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
A lot to unpack there. I just don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you don't know. And the reality is this is the job
of things I personally don't know. Which is true.
Oh, nothing against
Yeah, there's a lot of things you don't know.
You're incredible with what you know. No, but when you think about it, there's so many things that this Constitution touches on, and then its modern day equivalent.
Yeah, and there's a backstory to all of it.
Yeah, and how did we get to here from here?
And why?
And why? And why is it here in the Constitution, and what's the backstory to that?
Yeah.
And again, the nuts and bolts of government.
And who was the guy who said, wait, we need to include the following, and here's why.
Yeah, and these are the things that we'll never know because there isn't minutes of the Constitutional Convention. Probably for smart.
Well, yeah, for very smart reasons.
Yeah.
Well, we'll name that anonymous law crafter Francis Corncob.
Okay.
For future reference.
There you go.
When he said, wait, we need to talk about inspection laws and things like that. All right, so that's our line.
Yes.
And we're going to pick up the very last clause of the very last section of the very first article.
He's good.
On the next one.
He keeps
Thanks for
all
watching.
this straight.
Yeah, it's tough.